Spooky, spooky. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic horror movie review, number 5 on my classic horror review series for October 2023, leading up to that big night of Halloween, as I said before, my personal favorite holiday. And this is my review of the 1981 sequel, Friday the 13th, Part 2, directed by Steve Miner, who went on to direct the third film, as well as movies like House and 1986's Soul Man. Ugh. He also directed the movie Lake Placid, a crocodile movie that came out in the late 90s, a movie that I enjoy every time I check it out, as well as the seventh movie in the Halloween franchise, Halloween H2O, which I also thoroughly enjoy. So Steve Miner has had the privilege of working with not one but two horror icons in his career. And Friday the 13th Part 2, in my opinion, is a better film than the first film. I really enjoy the cast in this film. It has a higher budget, and so they got better actors, and it's a better looking film in terms of the cinematography and the filmmaking. The use of Steadicam is executed expertly all throughout the film, and it really helps to immerse one in this forest setting where you have this camp that's really close by to Camp Crystal Lake, which is where the events of the first film took place. And we have a new lead actress, Amy Steele, in the role of Ginny, who has a little background in child psychology. That's something that we learn in a bit of dialogue between Ginny and the character of Paul, which is this guy that you get the impression that they're kind of dating, and he's the guy that's running everything at this camp. And it's kind of a throwaway thing, but it's basically a bit of foreshadowing for something that happens towards the third act of the movie. And the actress from the first film, Adrienne King, does make an appearance in this movie, though I don't want to give away in what nature because it's kind of a spoiler. And Amy Steele is very good in this movie as the lead. I always remembered her from an episode of Family Ties where it was, I believe, the episode Summer of '82, where Michael J. Fox's character was dating her for a little bit. Out of all the main leads in this franchise, including the male leads, and there have been quite a few considering there are 12 Friday the 13th movies, including the remake, I think the character of Ginny is one of the best characters in terms of the way she handles herself. She does have kind of a spunkiness about her, a little bit of sassiness and attitude that's enjoyable to watch. Even though this is the kind of movie where you have our characters being slaughtered all throughout the film in many bloody and gruesome ways about every 10 minutes or so, it still takes time to have fun with these characters, and there's quite a bit of humor thrown in all throughout. At the very beginning of the film, we see somebody running after their car after it looks like their car is being towed, and it turns out to be a big practical joke. And then later on, somebody is telling a scary story at the campfire, kind of a little bit of background on one of our main characters, Jason Voorhees, and everybody kind of sits down and is really taken in by this spooky story, and then somebody jumps out of nowhere and scares the crap out of everybody. Tom Savini, who is a makeup effects master who worked on the first Friday the 13th film, did a great job in that film with his makeup effects, but couldn't return for the sequel, and so that honor went to Carl Fullerton, who I gotta say really lived up to the Friday the 13th name with this movie and his kills and the makeup. They look great all throughout with all the different practical effects, a lot of the blood, a lot of the gore. It really has that Tom Savini style. At one point, we see a character getting stabbed by an ice pick right in the head. There's another character that gets hit on the head pretty hard with a hammer. We see the appearance of a spear in this movie in a kill that's very reminiscent of a kill from the first film, where somebody's laying on a bed and it comes out from underneath, only this time it's two people on the bed and it comes from the top. We have a kill involving the machete, a couple of machete kills, of course, where you have somebody's throat being slit, and another where you see somebody getting a gash to the face. That's pretty brutal when you watch it. Aside from being a horror slasher movie that has all kinds of violent scenes all throughout, it's not without its fair share of sex and nudity, something that the horror franchise would definitely become known for all throughout the 80s, and something that was kind of a trademark of the Friday the 13th films. You wouldn't see it as much in the 90s. It definitely lightened up on that throughout that decade, but back in the 80s, it was full on just TNA and blood and guts, and it was something that a lot of teenagers were there for. And as a young kid growing up watching these movies when I knew I wasn't supposed to, that was a lot of the appeal of these films because they were kind of like the forbidden fruit of movies. Your parents didn't want you to watch this, and growing up with cable back in the day, I stood up many a late nights, and that's how I came across these films every now and then by accident. Maybe watching these movies back in the day are part of the reason why now I'm a little nutsy cuckoo, or demented, or desensitized. Maybe watching these movies at such a young age are part of the reason why I like boobies so much. But if that's a bad thing, if it's a bad thing to like boobies, I guess I'm bad. I'm just real bad. But Sorry, Mom, I turned out the way I did. Can't change now. Almost 40. Like a lot of horror fans, I do enjoy a bloody film every now and then. Maybe I do have that kind of bloodlust that goes with that when it comes to the slasher genre, since it is a genre that I very much adore and appreciate because it gives me something that you don't get with other genres in terms of seeing something that you don't see on a regular basis. Because a lot of horror films are a little sneaky. They don't want to show you certain things, and it's the stuff they don't want to show you that just makes you want to watch it all the more, at least for someone like me. When you grow up as a little kid watching cartoons and I Love Lucy all your life, stuff like this, growing up watching this stuff, it is scary when you first watch it. And so back in the day, these movies were scary. And Jason was scary to a lot of us kids. And in this version, we don't get the Jason that we all kind of know nowadays with the hockey mask. This is the sackhead Jason. The look was obviously inspired by the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, where you have a killer that looks very similar with kind of a sack. And Jason in this movie has kind of like the one hole, so he's chasing people around and falls down quite a bit. If the guy would just cut one more hole in his little sack. As a fan of this franchise, I do understand the criticism that if there's anything wrong with these films, is that they're all quite derivative of the first movie and that they're all basically remakes of the first movie, just done in slightly different ways. And that can be seen as a negative. But for me, when I watch one of these movies, I want to see all those trademarks and tropes and the familiarities. And that's part of the fun of watching these movies is that kind of step-by-step formula where you get the kills, the boobies every now and then, the Henry Manfredini score, that iconic music score that has that kind of psycho Bernard Herrmann flavor to it. You can tell it's very much inspired by that style. Of course, the practical effects, the makeup effects, the bloody and very creative kills, all of that is part of a nice little package that you come to depend on as a fan of these Friday the 13th movies. Friday the 13th Part 2 to me is a 4-star classic, one of the better sequels in the series. This is my copy of the box set, which I showed when I reviewed the first film, but I'm going to open it up this time so you see a little bit of what's inside. And it comes with this thing right here, which opens up, has all the movies, and I'm going to flip it to the page where you get the second disc. As you see there, some images of Friday the 13th Part 2. You can see there Amy Steele holding a pitchfork in defensive mode. And then you see there a little cameo by certain someone's head. A little spoiler for the first film if you haven't seen that film. But yeah, Friday the 13th Part 2, 1981, bona fide horror slasher classic. Thank you very much for watching this classic horror movie review leading up to that big night of Halloween. Love October, love this season. I appreciate you watching. If you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to comment, share, like, helps me out quite a bit. I appreciate you. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate you watching. And please don't forget to look out for the next classic movie review. I'll be uploading very soon. Happy Friday the 13th. Everybody stay safe. Peace out. God bless. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.